Thousands of people move to Idaho every single year expecting an affordable mountain paradise, friendly neighbors, clean air, and bald eagles delivering Amazon packages. Then the dust settles and the rose-colored glasses come off. That's when they realize that Idaho isn't everything all those YouTubers said it was. Idaho can still be great, but the fantasy and the reality don't always share the same zip code. Today we're looking at 10 things you should know before you move there, and these are 10 things you won't find on all those other YouTube channels that are just repeating the same stuff that I've already done. We're digging deeper. Let's take a look. Number 10, that farm smell is legally protected. Idaho's Right to Farm Act gives qualifying agricultural operations broad protections from many nuisance complaints. Living in the countryside comes with the countryside smell. It's a lot different from that new car smell, and they haven't made a little tree air freshener called farm stank, so you'll just have to get used to it once you move there. Now there's a reason for all this. A lot of new developments are spreading into areas that still contain dairies, crop fields, irrigation equipment, agricultural processing plants, and farms that have been operating for generations. That beautiful farmhouse view may also include dust, tractors before sunrise, crop spraying, field burning, livestock noise, and aromas powerful enough to make your nostrils question why the realtor didn't tell you about this. The farm may have been there for decades before your subdivision arrived. Idaho law isn't necessarily going to shut down because the smell interferes with your patio brunch. Cows in Idaho have seniority in a lot of the areas. My suggestion is visit the property early in the morning during a warm weather part of the year and during the active farming season. Research nearby dairies, feedlots, fields, and processing operations. And read every agricultural disclosure before buying that cute little house that is half the price the house you had in California. Number 9, your kids only go to school 4 days. A surprising number of Idaho school districts and charter schools operate on 4-day schedules, especially in smaller and more rural communities. Friday may suddenly become your problem. And that's the biggest problem with this one. It's not that your kid's only going to school 4 days. I mean, doesn't bother the kids to only have to go to school 4 days, but when you have to work 5 days a week, let's say your kid's only in first or second grade, you got to figure out that Friday. Schools often use longer days Monday through Thursday to reduce transportation and operating costs. That may work for the district, but families moving from traditional 5-day schedules can suddenly need that childcare, flexible work hours, or a grandparent willing to become an unpaid camp counselor every Friday. At first, a 3-day weekend sounds fantastic. Then you realize there may be more than 30 of them during the school year. I mean, we could always swing 1 or 2, but when it's 30 of them, that's a bit of a problem. Make sure you check the district's calendar before you choose a house. Ask whether sports, tutoring, meal programs, or subsidized activities are offered on Fridays. That includes the extra childcare in your relocation budget. Yeah, this could be a rough one. I mean, I don't work 9 to 5 anymore, but if my kids would have been off back in the day, it'd been pretty rough. My wife and I both worked full time. We had it staggered too. She'd go in at like 5 a.m. and I'd go in like at 10 a.m. So I'd get the kids to school and she'd pick them up. Families do this juggling act across the country every single day. But adding too many of those extra days off can be devastating to a family. Number 8. Cows have the right of way. In parts of rural Idaho, open range laws may place the responsibility on property owners to fence livestock out instead of requiring ranchers to fence every animal in. Yes, the fence may be your responsibility, and you should know about this in advance. Open range generally includes unenclosed land outside cities, villages, and designated herd districts where livestock are legally allowed to graze. So if you buy rural property without checking like the local rules, your new landscaping could become an all-you-can-eat salad bar for somebody else's cattle. And it's not their fault. It's on you, Chester. The cows won't apologize, the cow won't reimburse you, and it may not even break eye contact while it eats your begonias. Because you decided to buy a house in their neighborhood. Find out whether the property is located in open range or inside herd districts. Inspect every section of the fence before closing and ask who may be responsible if livestock enter your property or wander onto nearby roads. and become street pizza after being hit by an 18-wheeler. Oh, and by the way, cow tipping doesn't work. So if you're a city person and you've heard of cow tipping, we did it like 5 times once. It's what you do with your time when you're in the military. We tried to tip about 5 cows that were sleeping. Only one of them fell over, which was really depressing because for years I had heard about cow tipping. I grew up in a beach community with not many cows. Actually, there were no cows. I think there was some movie that every kid saw in the 1980s where they mentioned like cow tipping or something like that. So there we were at Travis Air Force Base and we were guarding the fence and there's cows there. So when they quit moving, we went up and tried to tip a couple over. Yeah, only one went over. It was kind of depressing. You ever tipped over a cow? You ever tried? Let me know in the comment section. Number 7, renting in Idaho can become a contact sport. Idaho generally doesn't limit how much a landlord can raise the rent after a fixed lease ends. It's like your rent can discover ambition after you're living there like 6 months or a year, whatever your lease was. Month-to-month renters usually must receive at least 30 days written notice, but there's no statewide percentage cap stopping a landlord from announcing that your 1-bedroom apartment now costs approximately the annual budget of a small fire department. Idaho also has relatively fast eviction processes in some non-payment cases. So don't just look at the mountain view you're about to get or that stainless steel refrigerator until you've looked at the lease. And do some reading in that fine print. You don't want to move to Idaho, start paying $900 a month for a 1-bedroom apartment, then your landlord realizes you came from California and goes, you know what? He could afford to pay more. 6 months later, at the end of your lease, you find out your rent is now $1,800 a month. That's like a lease with a plot twist. In my life, I've probably rented 5 different places, and only once did I have a decent landlord. Number 6, Idaho's changing what a lot of people move there looking for. Idaho's estimated population cracked 2 million residents in 2025. That's an increase of about 10.4% since April of 2020. The Idaho Department of Labor expects the state to continue growing roughly 1.5% per year through 2034. If you're not familiar how populations work, that's a pretty good run. They also think there's a chance they can get to 2.5 million residents by 2050. A lot of the people that moved there in the early 2000s came there looking for fewer people. The problem is, you're not the only one that had that idea. Now, growth does bring businesses, workers, customers, and tax revenue, which is all good. It also brings subdivisions, replacing fields, crowded schools, longer medical wait lists, heavier pressure on roads, and small towns slowly transforming into suburbs wearing cowboy decorations. Many newcomers are chasing the Idaho they remember visiting 10, 15 years ago. Unfortunately, hundreds of thousands of other people saw the same scenery and had the same frickin' idea. And now you live in a block next to a family from Kentucky and a dude from Connecticut. The good news is, growth won't affect every community equally. So research every county and every town you're thinking about moving to. Make sure they're not getting ready to open up some kind of Toyota plant or something there. Because if they got something like that on the books that's maybe going to happen in the next couple years, you know more people are going to show up. More homes will be built, and your out-of-the-way subdivision suddenly becomes one of 50. You know, just don't assume today's quiet edge of town will still be the edge of town in 5 years. Number 5, Idaho taxes your groceries. Now right there, that's some BS. You don't tax groceries. Idaho applies its regular state sales tax to groceries, which can surprise people arriving from states where most food purchases are exempt. Even your cereal gets taxed here. They're one of 8 states that actually do this. The state tries to soften the blow with a grocery tax credit. And that right there is some BS too. It's only $155 for a qualifying person, and some residents may be able to claim up to $250. But you gotta submit eligible grocery receipts. Get audited. You know, I got some ding-dongs that day, and yeah, it's $250 worth of ding-dongs. You did it the next month. I was into ding-dongs, what can I say? So Idaho taxes your groceries throughout the year and may return part of the money later, assuming you complete the paperwork correctly. Apparently the state wants proof you were serious about those ding-dongs. Breakfast now has an administrative department. How screwed up is that? Remember to include sales tax when comparing grocery costs. The credit normally must be claimed through the Idaho income tax return or refund form. And keeping receipts may increase the credit for some households. You know, honestly, Idaho's got a lot going for it, but to me, that's kind of a deal breaker. You know, over the year, I don't know how much you're going to pay in taxes on groceries, but the fact that they do, that just doesn't sit well with me. I mean, especially now, groceries are expensive enough. Number 4, rapid growth can eventually appear on your utility bill. Idaho's population boom is putting more pressure on water systems, sewer plants, roads, schools, and emergency services. New residents need more than just welcome signs. State and local governments are pursuing hundreds of millions of dollars in infrastructure projects. Grants and low-interest loans can help, but those projects still need to be funded, matched, maintained, and eventually repaid. That's where you come in, new Idaho resident. You're part of the repaying process. And you're going to see those in higher utility rates, connection fees, bonds, levies, and special assessments. Everyone loves a special assessment. That shiny new suburb may arrive with decorative ponds and cheerful banners, but a few years later, everyone receives a letter that explains wastewater treatment plant needs an upgrade and community spirit is not accepted as payment. Them pipes ain't gonna pay for themselves. Research planned water and sewer projects, ask about upcoming utility increases and bond elections, and check every taxing district and every service district attached to that property. These are things you don't think about when you move into a place, but you should. Nobody likes financial surprises. Number 3, a private well doesn't mean unlimited water. Now this one's for the rural people. Idaho water law is a complicated maze of water rights, priority dates, aquifers, irrigation districts, local restrictions, and documents written in dialects only known by attorneys and ditch company managers. Water under your property isn't necessarily your water. Domestic wells may be exempt from some permitting requirements, but they still pull water from the shared underground system. As subdivisions expand, concerns are growing about how much water new homes should be allowed to use. Parts of the Treasure Valley and southern Idaho are already examining future water supply problems, and demand continues to climb. So when a real estate listing says private well, it doesn't mean there's a magical underground fountain reserved exclusively for you and your family. Just remember the aquifer didn't sign the lease with you. Before buying, obtain the well log, depth, age, flow rate, and recent water quality tests. You know, go as far as research local groundwater levels and restrictions, or find out whether irrigation water is included. Everyone wants to move out to the land, live off the grid, but these things don't occur to people sometimes. It's not like your Grizzly Adams just heading into the Rockies and, building a cabin with a grizzly. You guys remember that show? Let me know if you remember Grizzly Adams. It was an amazing show in the 70s. Number 2, that mountain home may have an insurance problem. That's right, all states have insurance problems, but this one's a little bit different. Wildfire risk is making homeowner insurance more expensive and harder to obtain in parts of Idaho. Obviously, in the mountainous areas and places where you're right up against a forest, that's going to be the biggest problem. This is a problem actually all of the western United States is seeing right now. Idaho's no different. I mean, I don't know what's going on with the insurance companies these days, but Florida's, a mess with how much their homeowners insurance is. Texas is going crazy. California has always been nuts when it comes to their insurance, and now it's spreading out to Oregon, Washington, and Idaho. Boise County recorded Idaho's highest homeowner insurance non-renewal rate in 2023. Nearly 1 out of every 30 policies wasn't renewed, almost triple the county's 2018 rate. A lot of the homeowners have had policies just canceled on them, more than once. Others face major premium increases, large deductibles, reduced coverage, or demand for wildfire mitigation work. That peaceful cabin surrounded by pine trees may look like paradise to you. To an insurance company, it looks like a cabin made out of matchsticks. So make sure you get an insurance quote before making an offer. Ask whether vegetation clearing, roof upgrades, driveway access, or other mitigation work will be required. Yeah, the insurance thing is no joke these days. Kinda sucks to need insurance, which we all need. They gotta be gouging us, right? All right, before we get to number 1, if you're thinking about moving to Idaho or any state, there's a link for Home and Money in the description area below. They can get you in touch with a real estate agent anywhere in the country. All right, on to number 1. And number 1, Idaho isn't that affordable escape it used to be. Idaho continues to attract new residents and businesses, but home prices and rents have risen faster than many local wages. The scenery is local, the housing market has gone national. I mean, that's why everyone was moving there 10, 15 years ago. Idaho was extremely affordable, especially to those poor bastards coming from California. I mean, a lot of people moved there for the scenery and the open space, but what more of them were heading to Idaho for was the affordability. Well, because of that, and because of the demand, Idaho is catching up with places like California. Like I always tell people, if you don't want your state or your city or your town to be popular, run it just like Mississippi does. But if it's nice, people are going to move there, and that means prices go up. I mean, California is a perfect example. That place didn't get crazy expensive just because locals were buying homes. But state lawmakers have formally studied the housing affordability problem, and the situation can be especially difficult in rural recreation communities. Tourism creates jobs, but many of those jobs don't pay enough to afford houses near the lake, ski resort, or the charming mountain town. You may find work in Idaho and still discover that homes nearby are being purchased by remote workers, retirees, investors, and people bringing equity from more expensive states. The job may pay Idaho salary, but the house is expecting California money. Make sure you compare local wages with the exact housing market you plan to live in. Price rentals and homes before negotiating your salary and include healthcare, insurance, utilities, commuting, and childcare calculations. Idaho's still a great place to live, but the affordable version shown in old relocation videos may require a remote salary, a giant down payment, or a time machine back to 2014. So should you move there? Maybe. Idaho offers spectacular scenery, outdoor recreation, strong communities, and several completely different lifestyles depending on where you land. But Idaho is not one place. Living in downtown Boise is nothing like living outside of Salmon. Coeur d'Alene isn't Twin Falls, and a mountain cabin comes with very different problems than a house in a Treasure Valley subdivision. Everybody have a great day. Be nice to each other.